The first time I saw Alexander Pierce, he stepped out of a sleek black town car in front of the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Chicago. The October air sharp enough to sting my cheeks under a pale, washed-out sky that made the city's steel and glass gleam as if freshly polished. I was across the street outside a small coffee shop, clutching my resume like it was more than paper. Like it was my last lifeline, my final shot at escaping 2 dead-end jobs and the constant fear of the lights going out. Everyone knew Alexander Pierce. Forbes had called him the deal-maker of the decade, the man who had turned a 3-person consulting firm into Pierce Global, a multinational giant. I had read every article, memorized every detail. He was worth billions, but more importantly, he had the connections to open doors I had been pounding on for years. And as I watched him stride through the revolving doors with an air of unshakable control, I made a decision I wasn't proud of. I would find a way into his world. It wasn't about love. Not yet. It was about survival and the security I'd never had. And if that meant becoming the kind of woman he might notice, then that's exactly who I'd be. 2 weeks later, I sat in the glass-walled lobby of Pierce Global's headquarters, wearing my best blazer and heels that pinched, waiting for an interview for an executive assistant position on the top floor, his floor. The elevator chimed, and there he was, taller than I had imagined, sharp features, storm gray eyes scanning the room like a blueprint, his gaze pausing on me for a second longer than necessary. "Ms.?" he asked, glancing at the folder in my lap. "Taylor. Emma Taylor," I said, standing quickly. He gave a short nod. "Good luck in there, Miss Taylor." And then he was gone. I got the job. Working on the top floor meant seeing him often, passing in the hallway, sharing the elevator, catching him in the break room refilling his coffee without small talk. At first, I thought it was arrogance, but then I saw the late nights when he was the last one there, the skipped lunches, the weight he carried quietly. One evening, long after most had left, I knocked on his open office door and found him with his jacket off, tie loosened, rubbing his temples. "Long day?" I asked. "Every day is long," he said, gesturing for me to sit, and we talked. First about the weather, then the city, then about me. I told him parts of the truth, avoiding the overdue rent and maxed-out cards, and he listened, really listened, like my words mattered. Over the next months, a rhythm formed. Sometimes he handed me coffee in the mornings. Sometimes he'd ask questions out of nowhere. My favorite book, The Place I'd Live If I Could. I began to notice the rare, genuine laugh, the way he read people like chess pieces, always 3 moves ahead, and I realized my reason for wanting to be near him had changed. The turning point came at the charity gala, an event so lavish the centerpieces probably cost more than my rent. I wore a borrowed dress, trying to blend in, when he found me near the dessert table. "Enjoying yourself?" he asked. "It's something," I replied, and when he smirked and said, "You don't like it?" I shrugged. "I don't like pretending." For a second, something flickered in his expression, recognition maybe, before he offered his arm and led me to the rooftop terrace, where the city stretched out in lights and shadow. "Most people in that room want something from me," he said. "Do you think I'm different?" I asked. "I think you're honest enough to admit you did," he replied. "But maybe not anymore." And he was right. 2 weeks later, I found him sitting in his dark office staring at a photo, a younger Alexander with an older man. "Your father?" I asked, and he nodded, telling me he'd died the year he started the company, and that nothing he'd built had ever filled the space he left behind. Soon after came the deal. A massive merger that could double Pierce Global or crush it. The pressure closed him off again, but the night before the final negotiation, he came to my desk and said, "Walk with me," taking me to a 24-hour diner where, over coffee, he asked why I took the job. I told him the truth, that at first I thought his world would fix my life, but now I just wanted him to be okay, and something in his guarded look softened. The merger succeeded, the headlines called it his masterstroke, but the next morning, the first place he came was my desk. "Dinner tonight," he said. "No business talk." That dinner was the start of something real, something slow and careful, built on conversations and quiet moments that had nothing to do with money or power. I had come into his world chasing wealth, but what I found was a man who, despite everything he owned, needed someone to see him. Not the billionaire, not the deal-maker, but Alexander. And somewhere along the way, I realized I needed him in every way that mattered.